young Liberian activist, almost everyone I met for the first time expected me to be bigger and taller, and generally more imposing in my physical stature. I guess they were so surprised to see somebody so small and doing such big things. When people think about activists, many people think activists are lion-hearted, strong, big, and the more active you are, people will consider you a mule. People have even told me, when I heard your voice on the radio, I thought you were a male. And I left to wonder that even female activists have a strong voice too. You see, the truth is, activists go through a lot of challenges, ranging from issues of social, political, to economic barriers that affect our personal lives and our education. And while in the process of fighting for the rights of other people, our rights get violated too. This is also what a real activist looks like. I demand safe spaces and access to justice. And I'm dying too. What are my core values? Justice, courage, integrity, fairness, and equality for children and girls. And did I mention tabagi is another value of me? I mean, any tabagi, just add a gi to it. Where did these values originate? Probably early in my childhood, but I remember an important formative experience that I will share with you today. When I was 9 years old, my mom encouraged me to join Daughters of the Kings, an adolescent group in Kakata-Magibi County that teaches girls about rights, values, responsibilities, and life skills to prevent sexual violence. At 9, I didn't know that violence against children existed, or even child marriage, or that my own mother was the victim of such practice. I was just a kid, and I felt empowered by being a member of Daughters of the Kings, but I didn't yet know the power of my voice. But I felt compelled to fight for children and girls' rights. And my consciousness was awakened when I found out that a friend, a 13-year-old, was due to be married to a 39-year-old man in my community. I knew it wasn't right. At first, it seemed impossible to stop a long-entrenched tradition of a family. How I would be banned from school and from seeing friends. And she became afraid that my intervention would lead to something bigger than the marriage. But as young as I was, I felt that providing peer-to-peer talk would help in the process. And so, I started to talk and talk as a way of counseling. It took long as head of Daughters of the King advocacy team along with few social workers. We later engaged her parents. It was hard, there was a lot of protest in the process, but it was worth it. We engaged the community leader. It took us months, but later the marriage was stopped. At that moment, our children realized that there was power in my voice and that we could have even more power when we worked together. That case was the beginning of my activism for children and girls in Liberia. I have spent 10 years seeking justice and demanding safe spaces for victims of sexual violence and abuse in Liberia. In fact, almost 90% of the cases that I have dealt with involved girls. But yet, I refuse to subscribe to the idea of feminism. Why I grew up believing that I stood for the political, economic, and social equality of the sexes, I didn't see myself as a feminist. I would encourage girl rights, and participation, and even the idea of affirmative action. But I was simply not just cool with being called a feminist. I hated the word feminism because society had told me as a child in Liberia that feminists were lesbians or angry people. And now in a country like Liberia, where LGBTQ rights and people are so criminalized and a taboo to discuss, you wouldn't want to be attached to the community. Society told me that feminism was an essence around the hatred of men, and their idea was to fight against men. As an activist, I didn't want to be characterized as what the Liberian society would call it, a biased activist, an angry girl. However, I was placed in the social society box. I allowed society to make me believe what they believe and to say what they expected to hear from a girl. I became afraid of what I personally believed and stood for and what was morally and imperatively right for me and other girls in Liberia. I became silent about things that matter most. When I finally realized that it was enough of being silent, and that being violent for girls was the best and the coolest way to achieve gender equality and parity, I realized that I was a feminist. That feminism itself was about believing in equality, humanness, dignity, and equal rights for all. That feminism was never about being an angry girl or an attack on men or a hater of men. At that moment, I stopped being silent and started owning my voice and demanding equal rights and a fair chance. Being silent should never be the option when it comes to violence. We must never allow our beliefs to be shadowed by social society norms, negative norms. We must dare to show the difference. Every day, girls and children suffer from rape, abuse, and injustice. And in many cases, we found ways to blame girls and women for the abuse and injustice that they suffered. We blame their behavior and supposedly their indecent dress code. The shame, stigma, and blame that many survivors of abuse face is another grave injustice. When our communities should be a safe space for everyone, they have become a common ground for compromise and stigma. Silence has been used by society as a form of violence and oppression against women and girls. It is not enough to sympathize with girls and children when they are raped and molested. The behavior will only stop when we discourage discriminatory norms and ideas and attitudes that justify and normalize violence against women and children. We must also target the perpetrators of this horrible violence. These criminals do not need to look far for potential new victims. As a society, we are complicit in violence when we see something and do nothing. I remember in 2015, when I got elected as the first female speaker of the Liberian Children's Parliament, I was so excited. Fast forward to 2017, when a 13-year-old was allegedly raped and impregnated by a lawmaker. Many of the other activists I knew that could stand up for us, they didn't stand for long. And some of them didn't even stand. They became neutral in the process. Their silence and neutrality helped the perpetrator to escape the hands of justice and tormented the victim, and yet the victim is yet to be found. That's why when people like me and other activists around the world risk our lives, it's not because we have the platform, but because enough is the language every human should be speaking against violence and injustice. We are never silent because we have the platform, but because neutrality is a silent consent to violence. It is not okay to treat such a violence as normal. Such a violence devalues girls' right to own their bodies on their own terms. And the worst situation is when our system should be firm against injustice, our judiciary and government system have become crippled due to institutional weaknesses, corruption, financial constraints, and full of people who have attitudes and beliefs that discriminate against women and girls. Each and every one in here and around the world must serve as watchdogs for victims and survivors of sexual violence. We need to discourage the act by speaking and acting. It's time that we create a better space and a sense of belonging for everyone, regardless of their skin color, their sex, religion, what or where they come from. We must rally together to help the marginalized group to be heard and feel seen. That's why, as a person, since age 9, I have been standing up. I invite you to stand up with me and other advocates around the world to say no to injustice and demand safe space for victims of sexual violence and abuse. Will you please join me in this fight?
Yes. Yes.
Can you encourage someone to join in the fight?
Yes. Yes.
In 2016, I founded Youth in Action for Peace and Empowerment, a children and youth-driven organization founded to advocate, promote, and encourage children and girls' rights in Liberia. Quite recently, we organized the National 1K Walk for Children to stand up and speak up. In January of 2019, we launched We Save. We Save is a conglomeration of young voices coming together and saying no to violence and injustices that have been perpetrated against children and young people in Liberia. We Save serves as an informative and resource center and a counseling space for victims of sexual abuse and a movement of young voices. I encourage you to join. Be like me and many other activists around the world. Let's stand up, because silence against violence is oppression. Thank you.